Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Welcome in, everybody, to today's meeting. First up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I will move that.
Second.
Motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any discussion, changes? All right, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Excuse me. Next up is the consent agenda. Items 2 through 10 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Number 2 is the approval of the minutes of the May 27th, 2025 meeting. Number 3 is the approval of claims. Number 4, from Deputy Commissioner of Election, Steve Hoffmeyer, received the appointment of Chet Verskler as the Woodbury Central Community School District Board member. Number 5, from Secondary Roads, Laura Sievers. A is the approval of the utility permit for placement of new fiber optic cable in the county right-of-way for the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. Item B is the approval of permit to work in the county right-of-way on Old US 75 and 235th Street for Terracon. Number 6, from County Auditor Michelle Scaff, approval of a 1-year cigarette tobacco sales permit application for Heritage Express, Sloan, Iowa. Number 7, Human Resources, Melissa Thomas, approval of memorandum of personnel transactions. From number 8, Board Administration, Heather Van Sickle, it's approval of the notice of property sale resolution for parcel ending in ending in 0001, aka 1724 Richer Avenue for Tuesday, June 17th at 4:35 p.m. Number 9, Board Administration, Karen James. A is approval of resolution for a tax suspension for initials DM. B, approval of resolution for a tax suspension for initials JEC. And lastly, number 10, from Planning and Zoning, Dan Lee Priestley, approval to schedule June 17th at 4:45 p.m., June 24th at 4:45 p.m., and July 1st at 4:45 p.m. for 3 public hearings on zoning ordinance text amendments to the Woodbury County zoning ordinance, specifically to revise the land use summary table of allowed uses, section 3.03.4, to classify borrow pits for earth materials as a conditional use within the agricultural state's AE zoning district. And with that, I will move the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. All right, with that, that brings us to our main agenda. Number 11, from Secondary Roads, County Engineer Laura Sievers, approve the contract for pavement markings with Sir Lines-A-Lot out of Lawton for $192,393.50.
Hello. This contract, like you just said, is for our annual pavement marking painting that we do throughout the county. In previous years, I think we did try to do a third of our paved roads. We're upping that to doing half of the paved roads every year. That purpose, I feel, is because of the smart vehicles that we have on the roads anymore really use those lane lines, and as they fade, it can affect how that vehicle operates. And so this would just be a way. It does probably increase that line item for us about $40,000, unfortunately, every year, but I think the safety aspect that it provides is well worth it. So I'm just looking for approval of that contract with Sir Lines-A-Lot.
I'll move it.
I'll second. Motion by Nelson, second by Bittinger. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I will have to say it's a creative name.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right, number 12, Planning and Zoning from Daniel Priestley. Item A is to receive the final report and the Zoning Commission's recommendation from their 5/28/2025 meeting to approve the final plat of Washburn Addition, a minor subdivision to Woodbury County, Iowa.
Yes, the zoning commission, of course, sends their recommendation for this final plat, a 3-lot subdivision that happens to be on the appropriate zoning district, agricultural estates, which can facilitate multiple houses in the area. Everything checked out with the commission, and again, they recommend it. It was also approved by the city of Lawton under extraterritorial review.
Okay, all right. Board questions?
Thank you for all their work on that, Dan, and I would gladly move it.
Second.
All right, motion by Nelson, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Item B is to approve the final plat of Washburn Addition, a minor subdivision of Woodbury County, Iowa. Anything else, Dan?
Nothing else to add.
Okay.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Nelson, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Item number 13 from County Auditor, Michelle Scaff. It's the approval of ES&S hardware maintenance and software license maintenance and support.
So unless you have specific questions, I'll just stay here. So this is a ES&S maintenance agreement, which ES&S is our election software. It's basically a sole source proprietor for our election software. And we were up for renewal. We did work with the company and Joshua and determined that instead of creating a new agreement, we would extend the current agreement by amending it for a 2-year term. So the cost is a little bit more than what was budgeted for fiscal year '25. It's an increase of $369, which we can assume that from the rest of our budget for fiscal year '25. And fiscal year '26, it's an increase of $7,600. So as we approach the end of the fiscal year, we can look at our funding there. If we don't have a primary, we may have some extra funds available to cover that difference.
Okay. All right, any questions about the board or concerns? All right, hearing none, I'll move it. I'll move to approve that.
Second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank
All right.
you.
Yep. Item number 14 from Board Administration, Ryan Eckerson. Approval to formally make FY '24 court match CIP for payment of the Iowa Judicial Branch invoice and for future items needed for furniture, fixtures, and equipment expenses for the congregate settings of the new LEC facility. Ryan, I'll turn it over to you.
First, I'd just like to provide a little background with this, and then after doing some research, I think I'd like to table this for action next week. But what happened is we received a bill from the Iowa Judicial Courts based on a new law that is effective July 1st of '23. The county is now responsible for 25% of the furnishings for any new construction or remodel of the judges' areas in the courts. We received a bill for the total spent for the remodel was $692,000. The amount, that 25% for the Woodbury County was $173,000. This amount was known, or not, the total amount I don't believe was known, but we knew we were going to have to pay the 25%. So back in August, Matthew Ong made a proposal that we move some ARPA funds to make this available for this and other items. The amount that's available in that ARPA is now $90,000. There was also in the 24 CIP projects, there was a note, or there was one of them that just says court match. I could not find any documentation of where this was formally approved. Kenny helped me research it. And it appears that, like I said, it was known. I think Dennis was preparing for it. And he had set aside $145,000. And that's what I was going to say I would like to formally make as part of the 24 CIP. But also when I was looking at the 24 CIP, we have several projects. The total we could borrow on was $800,000. The total of the projects that we had in the system was $800,000. However, the Dorothy Pico was approved for $100,000. So now we have $900,000 approved for $800,000. So I think the only project that we can adjust would be this one, down from 145 to 45. Then So that's where I just want to finalize the research on this before we actually, approve it.
Right, okay. All right,
I move to table.
second. Motion by Nelson, second by Bittinger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ryan. And we'll have that on for next week, so go ahead and just put that on for next week. Yep. Number 15 for myself, it's the approval of the fiscal year 26 capital improvement projects, CIPs. I do want to give an upfront, I would like to table this, but we can have discussion. Ryan has brought some information to my knowledge the last couple of days about certain projects from the past year's CIPs regarding some information technology and some other unspent funds in CIPs that may change what we can approve tonight. And so I'd like to consolidate all that, and thank you, Ryan, today for updating me on that. So I would like to table that till next week, but we can have discussion, so we can begin discussion, or if the board wants to wait till next week and discuss and approve, I'm open to that, but I would like to move to table that, but we can do that after discussion, or if you guys want to discuss it next week, whatever the board wants to do. But I think it makes sense to have the most updated information from a budget standpoint, so.
On that, it's just when I was researching, prior year's CIP, there, I believe, just especially in the WCICC, there's projects that, they're never exactly what they are. There are some that were more and then some that were less. And I've got a discussion with John tomorrow morning just to kind of make sure he agrees with everything that I've just, so I think some of the stuff that, just for example, he asked for the firewall for 26 to be spent early. I believe that can be, covered with prior year CIP money.
Okay. Which would free up what current asking for CIP, so. What would the board like to do? You guys want to discuss all next week, or do you want to just?
I'd be fine discussing a little bit now, and
Sure.
then if we want to vote next week, but I'm
Okay.
one of 5, so
Okay.
I'll leave it up to my colleagues on their opinions.
Discuss, okay. Yeah, we'll discuss a little bit, and then we'll move the table. Anything you want to start off with, or?
We can just go right down the list, I
Sure.
guess, if we
Yep.
want to talk about each one.
Sure, yeah. First one's, carpet, paint, and blinds, and FFE for auditor and recorder office, 200,000. Do we have any bids on that, Michelle? Do we have any?
No,
Okay.
this is something that I did ask, I believe Kenny back when we started the process, and we don't really have a process that's
Right, yeah.
to get bids. I
Okay.
can tell you that I have spoke with the used furniture company that the IT department used, and they have practically brand-new cubicles, and we could get them for 20% of the cost. I have asked them to hold those amount of cubicles for my 2 offices until the CIPs, they are discussed and approved, and they graciously have been holding them for some time,
Okay.
awaiting the response.
Okay, all right. Okay,
At the meeting yesterday, Michelle, you said that you wanted to have, where it was from work comp, come in and look at the aerodynamics of the cubicles and stuff. Do you think that we should wait to have that study done before we buy cubicles in case those aren't what the study comes up as that we need? And, some terminology.
ergonomic.
Ergonomics, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
no.
ergonomics of the
I
desks
believe
and cubicles.
The ergonomics at the department head meeting, I believe that was just a one-on-one individual of where you should have your keyboards
Okay.
and how you should work so that you are not
Okay,
having damages.
so the
because of way
cubicles
you're
wouldn't
sitting.
affect that.
It could, okay, so I'm not sure what this ergonomic analysis involves, so
Gotcha.
Oh,
my
sure.
picture was something different than evidently what they're going to provide.
Okay.
So if it is a case where the cubicles could be affected, then that could result in it, but I'm not sure, because most cubicles, I think, are the same height and shape, so.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything too variant, some vary, but yeah. Okay. All right, we know part of the CIPs, we've already allocated the 600,000 for the LSC demo. you know.
So that one's done.
That one's done, so, that one next, we've already done that, so, our max borrow is 1.2 million, so that 600,000 is already off that. Clerk ceiling, Ryan updated me today, this is why, some updated, the 80,000, that's gonna be in FY '25 CIP, so that one you can cross off, that one we won't have to have. Let me drop down here. The district health sidewalk, that was at 25,545. That will be put into fiscal year '24 CIP. So that one you can cross off. And then down on the sheriff, if you guys remember on the sheriff, the M3 patrol ruggedized PCs, 23 of those, remember we used gaming.
So that one's paid for too.
That one's, because the sheriff wanted to get those in.
And I think, yeah, you're right. That one is done. We did that out of gaming. The conservation's gonna come back. They have the same PC they have one that
Okay.
needs updated. And so
Okay.
that might even be on next week's agenda that they're gonna ask to have that one for their patrol car or one of their officers' vehicles.
Okay.
So it might be one more. I don't think, well,
Alright.
whatever 80,000 was divided by 23 is what the cost was, but.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and with the rest of, I know, like Ryan said, he's gonna be looking at these bottom ones, these enterprise edge programs and some of these ones that John has on here. So we might be able to free up some money once he clarifies the last couple of years CIPs regarding WCICC, so.
The licenses and software for Celebrate for the sheriff's office.
Yeah, that's,
Is that something we would just take out of gaming potentially?
well. that's another-
$21,000?
Yeah, 21. You have the carpet.
How long is that software good for?
To celebrate, I think it's pretty much you have to redo it almost every year.
It's renewable per year, yeah. I was talking with some of the detectives last week, 3 of them, and they just said that more and more the evidence, of course, we all know in the digital world is mounting, and other organizations are not. You get so many uses per year, I think, per license, you either get, it's like, 10 or 20, 30 per, uses where you can get into the information on a device, and a lot of other agencies are saying are not willing to share because they have limited amount, and so the detectives have to make sure is this a high enough profile, are we certain on this case, and so it would seem that would warrant this one just for the safety of our people and help our detectives.
Well, I wonder if that just needs to be in the sheriff's budget going forward every year
Yeah,
on a light item somewhere.
we could take that out of gaming. Yeah.
For this, I'm just saying maybe for this year and then going forward, it needs to be in his budget.
Yeah.
And if it's a yearly license, it may not meet criteria for a CIP loan.
Okay.
There has to be a certain useful life.
And that's why I asked that question, because that was, yeah.
Right.
Well, I was
Which
wondering too,
I
yep.
always was of the understanding it was like 3 to 5 years
Okay.
at least.
That's the one that they're sharing with South Sioux or using South Sioux a lot with that.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll get the exact information from the sheriffs to make sure for next week on that. And on the rescue truck, we had talked, Drew, is there any, on that rescue truck, is there any potential change in engines? Mark was telling me that if, from diesel to gas, that might save some money potentially.
And then how many miles are on this one that we have?
The one that we're looking to replace as of today when I left the office is 195,541 miles. And by the month, we close to 200,000. The other one, the secondary, is 116,773.
Is this, in this one, this is for a diesel, correct?
I'm sorry.
Is this for a diesel truck? A
Yeah,
diesel
right now,
engine?
the pricing currently I have set to you guys back in the fall was for a
Right.
diesel. Since that time, I did some reevaluation.
Okay.
And I realized we can probably cut close to 12,000 by going from a diesel to a standard gas.
Yeah,
Along with that, we'll save the cost of the service being less, because obviously these 2.5 gallons of oil plus oil filter, fuel injectors, fuel pumps go out, more problems. So I considered into looking at a standard V8 engine and probably get more fuel economy out of it, better, economy in general. There's not to worry about the icing up in the middle of the winter, the water and the fuel and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, okay.
so since that time, we've gone back and evaluated and decided that would be the next, probably the most feasible, reasonable option to go with.
Okay. So roughly take 12,000 off that.
Yeah, so you're looking probably somewhere around
What do you think?
88,000, 89,000 range
Okay,
with that 12,000 off that 101,300. So, and we have a little bit of margin. We can go a bit more if we need to.
right.
So,
Perfect, okay.
okay.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you. All right. All right, well, got anything else? Anybody else? Well,
One that I think that really needs to be done this year, and it's gonna take, a couple CIPs to get it accomplished, but we've got to seriously consider what we're doing with the maintenance shop out there at Mobile. That building was built, I think, in like 1954. It was not designed for what we're using it for. The utilities out there, only a small portion of it's heated, but it's not insulated well. It's absolutely eating us alive. Our equipment's big enough that there's not much we can even work on it. But then the rest of it sits, well, not all the equipment, part of the equipment can sit under roof, but then we have to plug it in, which, in my opinion, plugging in machinery on the farm is you can heat a shop with multiple machines in it far cheaper than you can plug a block heater in for 12, 14 hours in between uses. So that goes back to the utility usage. And then the whole building is not big enough, and so we end up having a lot of machines sit outside. And as we saw with the engineers' kind of scheme for getting some of this updated equipment here 2 weeks ago, does it make sense to have $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 machines sitting outside year round? I don't think so. And so I know this first part is obviously they got to acquire some land because that spot isn't big enough. And we've got for those that maybe don't know, at Mobile, we typically try to have a maintenance shed, a gravel pile, a dirt pile, salt shed. There's a lot of things that go into these. In Mobile, that location's not big enough, so we actually have a second piece of property northwest of town that we keep bridge pilings, culverts, dirt pile, sometimes gravel. That's separate, and we've had a lot of issues with people recreating on those, people getting hurt. It's right off of a curve on a highway. We've had people crash into our equipment that's sitting there. At times, we leave wheel loaders and stuff outside because it's just not efficient to transport them back and forth to the shop all the time, but then that's open to vandalism and theft. And so what Laura, and I was hoping she'd stick around, but what she was hoping for is have a site big enough that everything could be under on one piece with a fence all the way around it, and we could keep people off of it. There's not a lot of locations at Mobile because quite a bit of that is in floodplain. So there's kind of a few places that we could look at to build. And there's one area that she's identified that, talking with the family, sounds like is going to go to a public auction this fall. And so I think if that's going to come up for sale, and that's our number one choice, I think that we need to be in a position to try to buy that.
okay.
And so, and this is something that's a multi-year project because the building is going to be, a new shop is going to be several $1 million. Then you got fencing and, all that sort of thing. But I just think that in 1 or 2 years, we're probably costing ourselves far over the 150,000 out there with just having that archaic setup. So I think in time that the payback would be pretty quick.
Okay. Yeah, good. I was looking at this too, looking at human resource carpet and then EMS east side concrete. Those might be things that we could potentially do out of gaming as well and cut back on debt.
Daniel?
Yes.
Could you have Kenny explain the Dorothy Pico?
Oh,
Say maybe give an update on that? If he is can you do that, Kenny?
Sure, what's your question?
Yeah, what's-
Ryan?
Well, it's on here for 372,000.
Yes. So Dorothy Pico is complicated. We've been working on that, it's a structural project we've been working on. When I say we, I mean architects and structural engineers have been working on since 2022. In 2023, early 2023, we installed monitoring points on the building structure. We had CTS do that to start monitoring the movement of the building, so we could determine if the exterior structure was moving or if the interior floors were the only thing that was moving. On both levels in that building, the floors had sunk, mostly in the office area on the main lower level floor. In one 20-foot section, it had sunk 2 inches. So there was some severe movement. So we did a lot of studying on what the cause and effect of that was. There's always been a lot of different theories. We've checked a lot of things. No one is able to come to an actual solution saying this is it and this is what we need to do to fix it. So we started out with an initial amount on a CIP that was to cover expenses originally for this monitoring and for the architects and for engineers. As we got into the project farther down the road, we hired some experts to come in, structural experts, and had concrete people come in to discuss about raising the floors or foam jacking the floors, which we most recently just completed. At that time, the recommendations were that we should probably consider adding pilings to the exterior structure of the building as well, piers. So we looked at that here just a few months ago. The problem with adding the piers was it was going to be very expensive and it was going to devastate the whole interior of the building. When I mean devastate, I mean we're tearing everything up and gutting the whole interior of the building to add piers to the outside structure. That means everything that's on the exterior, the inside of the building on the exterior wall gets gutted. All the sheetrock, everything that's in the room has to be moved out everywhere. So that approach was deemed too devastating. When we didn't know we were not going to actually be required to do that, at that time I had put in a CIP for additional money because we thought that's the direction we were headed. We no longer think that's the direction we headed. We just expended $90-some thousand to polyfill the floors and jack them up. We are going to have ongoing expenses. We have not done it yet, but I will be coming before the board for extended monitoring in the extended years to come, so we can keep tracking what this building's doing, track its movements in case we need to make some adjustments into the future. So, does that help, Brian?
It does. Is there an amount you would suggest? Like, I know you have 372, but do we need, 50,000, 100,000, or what would you?
I think,
Well, the whole amount, or?
I think we could take it down to 250.
Okay.
And I don't know I don't really know the monitoring figures or not, but I think that we could do that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you.
So back to the EMS concrete, so that east side concrete, they put an overhead door in where the gymnasium is, and so right on the outside is rock. And so it's more of kind of a, Drew, don't get mad, but it's more of a want than a need as far as it am tracking moisture and rocks and dirt into into the side of the storage area there in the gymnasium.
Yeah, correct, years ago, the gym used to be obviously vacant, and they decided to use it to garage space, so they broke in, or actually cut in the side of the building, starting on the east side, and put a huge garage door, and we store a bunch of the hazmat trailers, generators, other type trailers we have stored in there that needs to be out of the weather. They kind of have gone in and tried to put some kind of fill. At one time, they used some gravel or shavings off the or asphalt work, helped for a while, but now there's just a huge hump, and we go to push vehicles in and out with trailers and stuff. It's a little of a challenge to get that crest or brake to get in there sometimes with not tearing stuff up. It also ends up tracking into the garage, but it also has a point where our employees usually enter in the mornings for shift change. So also, now we put new carpet down, now we'll be tracking across that carpet. We know we can strip mats, but it'd be nice to have that paved, and also it helps with drainage. That corner of the building can still build up away from the building. So that was the one for the east side one.
And then on the front replacement, if you're gonna look at evaluate the two, so part of the sidewalk that comes into that building would not be ADA compliant, or is not, because there's so much concrete that is heaved and sunk that if there was someone in a wheelchair or an elderly person that had to use that sidewalk to get in the building, it would be,
It's rough.
it's pretty, I mean,
Yeah. We looked at it briefly about doing caulking or filling with like a black plastic material. It'd be a waste of money. You'd go through more of that stuff trying to fill the holes and voids. Then it'd be a waste of our money and time to even try. A lot of the area is still original concrete back when the school was open in the 50s probably. And it's just got to the point where it's just degraded and aged and old. I mean, it's original. Some of it's right, like you mentioned, within the ADA compliant area to make access to the building. We had concerns last fall when we had the elections committee training, that we kind of stepped and kind of watched, make sure people that had canes and stuff didn't trip or get hung up on those little edges. So it's just of the two concrete products, as I mentioned in the narrative, it's the most that I'm worried about. It's more risk of
so
liability.
that front replacement, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, I think they had to fix that sidewalk, but then the paved area where they kind of park and drive through, and that doesn't affect the ADA at all, so you could just do just the sidewalk and not that. I think the reason we'd thrown that other front parking area in is that in some of those places, again, the concrete is heaved so bad that
Correct.
you can't move snow.
Right.
If anybody had to walk there that wasn't very sure-footed, they would most definitely trip or fall, because it's, I mean, there's just places where it's just heaved out, just terrible.
Correct. And we looked at with contractor, Tim, who, the ones we get our bids from to look at and see, and we sat down with them. I mean, we're not tearing the whole parking lot out. There's no need to, because some of it was redone when they added the garage in years ago. It's just more of the older part. It's kind of an odd shaped, but I marked out with yellow dots to show so everybody had the same idea what we wanted to do. And that was the result of that.
But the driveway, I mean, could survive, but the sidewalk, you know, he brought up the training, but like the 911 service board meets out there, and then the EMS, Woodbury County EMS Association's out there, and the fire association's out, so there's a lot of meetings that happen out there,
Yeah.
and that sidewalk is pretty bad.
And occasionally alumni groups come through.
Yeah, so.
All right. Thank you, Drew.
On the Little Sioux asphalt resurfacing, I visited with Dan Heisel. You know, they kind of threw that in because we're resurfacing D38 west of Anthon this summer, and they could get a competitive bid off of that. But we're also going to be resurfacing D38 east of Anthon, which will actually be even closer to the park in 2 or 3 years. If Laura was here, she'd tell us. And so that one, I mean,
Yeah.
do they want that done? Sure,
Yeah,
but
but we just-
it's a lot of money, and
Right.
you know, I mean,
It's beyond what we can do right now.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So that's
Okay.
something maybe in 2 or 3 years when we go to pave that other one, that's an option then.
Right.
May not be either, but.
Yep.
So,
Well, all right, some good discussion. With that, we'll get the updated information. I know to Ryan tomorrow, you'll work on that and get that out to the board. If you can get that, if you can send to the board updated information after tomorrow's meeting, you have with John.
Yeah, I should have it
Okay.
tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. All right, well, with that, another discussion, I will move to table this till next week for approval.
second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Number 16 is reports on committee meetings. Okay, seeing none, okay. Oh, you guys? Okay.
Just a few things on zoning. We did cover some of those things in tonight's meeting. about the Washburn addition and also the Borough Pit. But also for zoning, they were looking at that athletic baseball field on Morningside, for Morningside College. And I believe that's going to be around Old Highway 141 in Buchanan. And so that was something that came up for the zoning committee, and also the nuclear energy facilities and the nuclear waste storage. There was a discussion of the 500-foot notification radius and the 10-mile notification zone, so just wanted to pass that.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing none, all right. Moving on to number 17, citizen concerns.
Good evening, Tina Bertrand, Woodbury County Treasurer. I think I notified everybody already of the massive text scam that's going on right now. And it's actually statewide at this point in time, but everybody is receiving a text message saying Iowa Department of Vehicles enforcement penalties. Our records show that as of today, you still have outstanding traffic tickets. And they're telling people that if they don't get them paid and straightened up by June 6th, that they will have their license suspended or they may be prosecuted and things like that. So we fielded probably between walking customers trying to pay us for these fines and telephone calls, probably about 100 people today.
Wow.
We did put out a notification. Yeah, we had 30 before 11 o'clock in the morning. So we are not the only county. The Sioux City Police Department issued a notice as well,
Okay.
as did the Treasurer's Office. So we're hoping that it's going to subside a little bit now that word's getting out. But it's pretty prolific, and there've only been a few people who have actually selected the link. But it is like anything. We do not issue any, first of all, we do not collect, the Treasurer's Office and DMV does not collect for traffic violations from law enforcement agencies. We also would never issue a text message or an email for those kind of collections. Any kind of notification would actually be issued via regular mail. So hopefully we won't have too many people adversely affected by it.
Yeah.
So-
And we do have this on the website, our county website as well.
We did, yeah. Heather was great. She got that right on there. So it is on there. So hopefully, and I believe we have a screenshot of a message. We did have one customer send it over to us so that we knew what we were talking about. And oddly enough, as I was reaching out to some of the news media, about 5 minutes after I made a few phone calls, I was getting calls back saying, I just got my text message. So.
Wow.
It's happening that fast, so just
thank-
wanted to let everybody know, please do not select the links. Thanks.
Thanks, Tina. That's good. Hope they find those guys and let James prosecute them. Put them in a nice new LAC. Number 18, any other citizen concerns? Don't want to. All right, moving on, number 18, board concerns for today.
So I sat on a meeting, with Sergeant Bluff last week with Gil hauling and the garbage concerns there in Sergeant Bluff. And they're all on the same page now. It's good. It'll be a good working relationship. But one concern that came up, and I'll probably have Joshua maybe look at this, but Gil runs the landfill transfer station, and the scale there is going to be going out, basically. They've had it checked. They've had some issues with it. And basically, it's coming up with it's no longer serviceable. So I don't know what the contract says or what was agreed to when Gil took that over. If it's for Gil to look at replacing it, or if it's something, as far as the county goes, what needs to be replacing the scale out there. So that's something I'll contact Joshua about that.
Thank you, Dave. All right, seeing no concerns, all right, this meeting is adjourned.